Hey guys, this is OC. I'm here to actually help you guys do Milestone 3 of the name surfer project, which in this case we should be to the point where we already have our name record taken care of, we have name loading taken care of, we have the reading method implemented. Okay, we also now have our search taken care of, and we should now be, and that should be all taken care of with the search and the do search. And then we also should be now ready for the graph. Okay, so just for an example, at this point, if you execute your program at the moment, okay, you should, like in the main file of nameframe, you should have the boolean we talked about of search. Okay, we should also have an array list of name records because it's going to be all our name records. Okay, we're going to create, so the main method is just going to create the name frame, which is this thing that we're in. It's going to read the name data using the method read that we've already implemented. And if search, aka if it's true, we're going to do search. And all do search is going to do is show the input dialog, enter the name to search, we assign that, and we just call search. And we just keep doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this. If they enter cancel, it'll cause an exception and cause the problem to stop, okay? And then our search method is just going to go ahead and search for us, okay? So at the moment, if we actually run this project, what we should see is it should pop us up JOption page and something to look for. So if I look for Emma, I would get Emma, Emily, Emmanuel. So I get all these different options. Okay. And essentially it's going to keep popping these up. If I do pet, I'm going to get all the pets. If I do JES, I get all those. I should get the max year for them. Okay. And once you hit cancel, it gives it a little exception. And that's because we know that's going to happen. So that's not a big deal. Okay. So in Milestone, the next milestone, what we want to do is we want to start the graph. Okay, so we actually, because now we got all of our data in there, and so the goal now is we want to actually get this data into graph form. Okay, so we're going to need to make one of these visual objects that actually creates a graph for us. So just like we learned a while ago, when we think about graphs, when we think about doing painting, you know, we essentially have, when we paint on something, there is kind of like our easel, okay, which is like our J-frame. And then we put things onto the easel because you don't want to paint right onto the easel. So those are generally things called J components. Okay. All right. And those go onto the easel, and we paint onto those. Okay. Now there are many forms of J components. We're just going to make our own form of a J component. Okay. So we're going to put the J component on the frame, and then that will actually create everything and make everything look pretty for us. Okay. So the goal in this one is to create an in component, which is a subclass of J component. Subclass. When we call subclass, what a reserved word are we going to be using in our class declaration? What did you say? That extends. Yeah, good job. Okay, so we're going to extend J component. And we'll talk about how to make things a preferred size of 600 by 600. So essentially it's saying that you're going to be 600 pixels wide, 600 pixels tall. Okay. And then so we're gonna override a method called paint component. And paint component is a method that all J components have. And we learn from inheritance, if we override it, we will let it do what we want it to do. So J components don't really paint very much. In fact, they paint nothing. So we're going to override that paint component and have it draw what we want to draw. Okay. So the paint component method should draw a line graph as follows. So it's going to draw decades, which is equal to 11 at this moment, but it's going to draw decades amount, evenly spaced lines to make each decade, with 1900 starting at x is 0, and a draw string of 1900, 1910 just off to the right of each line. We're going to reserve 20 pixels of space at the very top and bottom of the graph and draw black horizontal lines at the top and the bottom. Okay. So what we're going to end up doing is we need to create this, okay, and then we'll be able to achieve milestone 3. Okay, so how do I even do that? Okay, so let's think about that. So first off, I went ahead and made a name component. Okay, and you guys said it needs to be extending. Okay, remember a subclass of J component. Okay, so essentially we're going to extend J component. Now don't forget that one of the biggest things we want to do is we got to import things. It's going to tell us to import it. Okay, so essentially we want to change all this up and make this work the way it is. So just with any other class, what do we have to have as our first first method slash item in our new object. You might say instance variables, and that's fine. So instance variables are things we could add. Okay. For instance, we did see something like final int decades we still want, and that's going to be equal to 11. So that's true. But there's something else. We want to create an object. What's that first thing we have to have? This is where you do that thinking thing. You can do it. Think about it. Public? Return type? No. We're just going to say name component. This is our constructor. Okay. And so this is going to be our good old name component. Right? So comment this as our constructor. What's the first statement we should have for any extended class? Because remember, this extends a J component. So we have a parent class, and this is our subclass. So what's that statement we got to have? It's a reserved word. We got to call something. This is when you think again. It's like man, but he's not just a regular man or a woman. Subwoman. No, super. So super, and we'll just call that. Okay. So far, that's all we need. Okay, now we are super in there. We want to take a look to make sure we didn't miss anything. So we do want to set this thing called preferred size, and I know you haven't done that yet, but essentially a preferred size is saying, well, how big should this component be on the screen? Okay, so again, we have constants here, like size 600 by 600. So that sounds like a constant we're going to need. So final int size equals 600. Okay. So the way we should do this is we can do this dot set preferred size, okay, and you need to make a new dimension for this, and it's going to be size by size. Oh, not dies. Okay, so size by size. Okay, and you're going to need to import dimension, and you're good to go. All right. So set preferred size to a size by size. And so that's going to set us to a 600 by 600 window. Okay, so that was something else we wanted to do. Okay, and now that's all we need to do essentially in our constructor, because we constructed a name component. It called super, and it went ahead and set the size. So the only thing we got to do is override this paint component thing. Okay, so the way you override that is you could look up the method name if you want, but it's essentially public void paint component graphics G. Okay, right. So paint component and import graphics. Okay, and then it might tell you to override. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, so what paint component is? Paint component is when the frame, like you have to think about the easel being like a smart easel, and it's like I'm super smart. And so what's going to happen is G. So overrides. G is the graphics object we can draw on. Okay, so that's what G is going to represent. It's going to be our drawing object. Okay, it's a thing that we can draw on. Okay, so whenever we want to do any drawing, we're going to do it on that. Okay, all right. So next thing, we want to have draw decades, 11 of them, evenly spaced lines from each decade from a width of 1900, line index of 0, and a draw string of 1900. So let's try to do it the first thing first, okay? So we want to draw decade. So how do I even draw a line here like this, okay? Well, we could do G dot draw line. And there it tells you. So you can just draw x1, y1, x2, y2, and it'll tell you what to draw. Okay, that's pretty easy. So if I want to draw a line from 0, 0 to 300, 300, that's going to draw a line from 0, 0. And remember, Java looks, so if NetBeans is like essentially my frame or my component, I apologize, we're going to, our 0, 0 points up here in the top upper left-hand corner, and so it's going to start there and go to 300, 300, which is probably going to be down here, so we would end up getting just a line that would go down and to the right like this. Okay? All right? So that's what draw a line would do. Okay? Before we go too much further, we actually might want to look at putting this onto the frame so you have an idea of like while you're testing how you could see what's going on and not. So we can look a little ahead to milestone 3 and take a look at it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of milestone 3 just so you can like test this as you go on and see what's going on, okay? So the next thing we want to do is we want to be in the, we created our name, so we're back in name frame, and we created the name frame and we read it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and turn search back to false because I don't want to keep doing that searching anymore. Okay, and now what I want to do is I need to set the size of the frame. Okay, so we're going to set size of the frame, and we're going to set this to 600 by 600. It's going to be the same size of our component. So essentially, the component's going to eat up the same size as the frame. Okay, and then we want to make our name component NC equals a new name component. And that's all we got to do. So that makes our name component. Okay. We also want to set the preferred layout of this frame. Okay. Layouts. Let's not get into them. Let's not get into those too much yet. So for now, let's just go ahead and accept that this is the way it occurs. If you want to look more on layouts, I'll do a whole thing on layouts for you. But layouts are essentially like, if you look at this screen right now, you have like a Windows side here, you have some windows down here, you have a scroll bar over here, and you have menu bars up here, and you have tabs here. So this is like, this is actually, NetBeans is much like a border layout. We have a center, we have a west, an east, a north, and a south. Okay, and that's what it's going to do. It's going to give us the idea of what a like a border system looks like. Okay, so we're going to set this layout to a new border layout, okay. And it's going to ask us to import border layout, which is fine. Okay, and so that'll set the layout to a border layout. And then we need to add the component on. So we're going to add frame.add name component to name component, and we're going to add it to the border layout dot center. Okay, so that will make sure we put it right in the center. Okay, and then frame dot set visible to true, so it actually becomes visible. All right, so let's take a look at what this looks like at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to run my name frame here. And there it is, our frame and our 600 by 600 frame. And then the component, which is, you have to imagine, the component actually is laying right on top of this frame. Okay, so, and it's drawing a line from 0, 0, upper left-hand corner, to 300, 300. Okay. So now if you want to change stuff, now you can see what's going to happen. Okay, so if you wanted this to go the full size, you know, if you wanted this to be referenced to the full size of the frame, like if you want to draw a big X, you know, a start of a good old X there, okay, we could make that size the size. And there you go, now it's size to size. Okay, now you might have noticed there's a small little space on that. That has to do with how frames work. Don't worry much about that right yet. We'll fix that later. That's a minor tweak. Okay, so we can draw lines now. So if you want to draw a vertical line from like 0, 0 to size, well, let's see. Let's think about this. Is that really what I want? I think what I want is, let's draw vertical lines, you know, because we're doing a graph here. Vertical lines up and down. And we're going to start at x of 0, and they're going to go up and down. And then 1910, and then 1920. And they should be evenly spaced, decades amount. Okay? So I need a line from the top left here down to the bottom. Okay, well, we can do that. So let's think about that. That's x 0, 0, x, y 0, 0. And then what is this coordinate right down here? What is this coordinate? Remember, x, y, all positive. X, y. Want a line right down the middle there, right down that side. So we want the line to start at 0, 0. That makes sense. This one right now goes to size. Well, it looks like it's got the vertical length I want, but the horizontal, I don't want it to move the horizontally. So this point down here is going to be x of 0, but a y of size. So we're going to want this to be x of 0, 0, x of 0, but a y of size. Okay, and so that should give us a good vertical line. Okay, sorry, didn't quit enough of these out real quick. So let's go ahead and rerun this and see what happens. Ah, oh God, I can't see it. There's nothing there. Oh my God. Oh yeah, it is. Right there it is. There's a black line right on the edge. Okay. All right. So now you want to think about ways, what's the algorithm? So we now, that's obviously going to do one line, and you could do g.draw line again, and you could keep doing this over and over again. You could even think about it. You could even do the math on a calculator and say, well, this is going to be 0, 11. This is going to be size divided by 11, okay? And then you're going to want this to go from 0. Oh, I apologize. We actually want x to be size divided by 11, and then this is going to be 0 because we want to start there, and this is going to be the same size divided by 11, and then this will go all the way to size, okay? Because you're saying start at an increment divided by the full length of the screen. So we're saying take the length of the screen, the width of this frame here, which I closed out. I didn't set default close operation, okay? So essentially take the width of this frame and go ahead and draw it. See, there it is. Yay. We could do this 11 more times, but that seems super dumb. There's some relationship here where we can actually write an algorithm that should essentially, we essentially want to repeat this drawing for decades amount of time. And essentially you could think about, well, how would the next line look? So you would draw a line, okay? And now this time, we want to go 2 times this distance over. Oh, 2 times. Ooh. 0 times this, 1 times this, 2 times this. Oh no, I think there's a pattern here. And if we know patterns, we can use a for loop to draw all our lines. Okay? All right. I'm going to put that in a comment because I'm going to show you guys how to draw a string. Okay? So that can draw your lines. Okay? And then if you want to draw a string, well, that's easy too. Let's draw string. And so we want to draw 1900. This seems really bad again. I'm exactly typing in 1900. I hope there's a pattern for this too. There is. There is. Okay. So because if we're for looping, we know what decade we're in. So anyway, 1900, okay, is what I want to print out. And then essentially we want to be a little offset from the line we were just at. So if you think about it, if I just drew the line at 0 times size divided by 11, and this is 0 times size divided by 11, yeah, you're like, that's 0. That's the pattern, I'm telling you. Okay, so then if that's it, I essentially want to start at an x just off to the right of this a little bit. Okay, so I want to do 0 times size divided by 11, and I want to offset it from that spot. So the idea here is that we want this to be slightly off to the right. Okay, so if I get rid of this just so I can see the code again, so I can see the frame again, we'll run that. Okay, remember I want it to be just off to the right of this. So maybe 5 pixels. Okay, so if I want it to be 5 pixels off, we'll do size divided by 11 plus 5. Okay. And do we want to draw? Where do we want to draw a string at? Do we want it on the top or the bottom? Well, I don't know. Let's play. Let's put it at 0. Okay, and see where that is. Okay. Oh my gosh! I can't see it. I can't see it. Because 0, 0 is there, and it's drawing the string probably above where I can't see it. So let's offset this a set. So let's draw this down to 10 and see where we are now. Oh, still can't see it. Oh, there it is, 1900. So it did come down kind of nice. Okay. So again, you have to realize we're using a lot of magic numbers here, and I don't like magic numbers. So we may want to do final int year offset equals 5. Final int year y offset equals 10. Is that what I said? Yep. Okay. Maybe that's what I want to do. Okay. Don't forget there was that other. Oh boy, maybe I should really type it. I just love caps, don't I? Maybe I should also make my final for my space that it told me about, which is 20. We'll have to figure out how to incorporate that later. Okay? But I think this should get you started, because I know some of you are feel pretty up on this, and some people are still working on some of the prior portions of it. But I think if you get this started already, you follow what I say here with making the name frame, setting the size, making your name component, setting the layout, adding that name component to the center of the border layout, and then setting the visible to true of the frame, correctly just doing your name component like this, then all you're doing in paint component is just playing around with drawing. Okay? And so you can start to figure out, okay, how can I use a for loop? Okay, how can I use some of these constants? So if we ever resize something, we will, then how can I change these things to make them work a little easier? Because I don't want to sit here and do draw a line 11 times. Like, I don't hate myself that enough. Okay, so we want to think about ways we can do this in a more algorithmic process. And I kind of showed you some of the inkling here that we realized that it seemed like every time I drew a line, it was some number times size divided by 11. Wish I could get rid of that 11. I wish there was something that represents. I wonder what that 11 represents. I don't know. I know, like, for instance, this 5 now represents my year offset. And maybe I should actually call that my year X offset, because I want to know, I have a Y offset, so I should probably tell you that's my X offset. And then this is my year Y offset. Okay? Because it just offsets, it sets the spacing of where we want to do it off a little bit of our normal baseline. Okay? So play around with this. You can look at all the different things G can do. You can go look it up on the API, or just type it in here in NetBeans and take a look at things you can do. There's a lot of cool things you can do. I would probably suggest just starting with the simple stuff like drawing lines and things like that at the moment, and then maybe branch off a little bit later to do some neat stuff. But for now, I think you have enough to get started trying to accomplish this paint component thing and accomplish Milestone 3. So the goal here is just to get a basic graph set up. So when you're finished here, all we should have is a basic graph set up where when you're finished, it's going to look just kind of neat. So like at the point you're going to have this is, on my final program, all you would have is this basic setup right here. Okay, and actually, I just kind of showed you, look, we actually want our numbers on the bottom like this. Okay, so you can kind of see a really nice layout for the way this should look. Okay, the milestone information is up on Haiku, so if you want to go download it, please do, because you'll want to look at this stuff so you have it next to you. But again, read the things verbatim, and it really works out well for you. I left Skype open on my computer, and again, if you're watching this some other time, not in class, then the Skype is not open. Feel free to message me if you have questions or things I can help you with. Okay? Hey guys, have a good day. Thanks for watching.